Episode 37, mate. I mean, 38. I can't see. It's the second week in a row. I messed it up.
Dude, you're always giving the wrong numbers. Get it together, my friend.
No, I look at numbers all day, every day. So with my Neanderthal brain, I'm bound to mess it up at some point.
Well, welcome back. Here we are
Episode
again.
38, dude.
Yeah. How we doing, Nate?
Good, man. Good. You know, been up since 3 a.m. You know,
Awesome.
literally.
Yeah, literally. I've been up
And
since 4:30, so hour and a half later.
you know, it's funny too, because I'll be talking to people at work and they'll be like, "Yeah, I've been up since like 2 a.m." I'm like, "Oh, it's not just me." It seems to be you notice it when you talk about it with other people, you wouldn't even think. Like, why
Energy
is
on
this
the planet,
happening?
man. Energy on the planet. Spiritual realms speaking.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about this episode is the concept of waking up around 3 a.m. and what it means.
Mm-hmm.
And both of our experiences with it. If you have experiences waking up at this time, feel free to comment down below, share your thoughts. We're going to be talking about different aspects of it, to include also probably I'll talk a little bit about dreams because sometimes they correlate. But from what I've heard and researched and experienced is that waking up around 3 a.m. is sort of like divine timing. I've heard different things. They're all pretty similar. One concept I did hear is like we were just talking about off cameras, a lot of people refer to it as the witching hour.
Mm-hmm.
In some circles, they call it the devil's hour.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, it's time to connect deeper with God.
Yeah.
So I know that's also been happening for you too, waking up at those times and kind of just talk about what you've experienced, Brian.
Well, yeah, it's happened. It's happened to me a lot. I mean, I would say over the last several years, but even more so, I would say probably in the last like month or so, maybe 2 months. It's happened like consistently. I mean, I'm up early all the time. I get up and I train and coach and do those things, right? But and work out and whatever. But even when I don't need to, I'm still awakened at those times. And like we talked about before, the first time I ever heard that, like really heard about that, was Wayne Dyer talking about how he was woke up at like 3. I think he was woke up at like 3:14 or something like that every day. And basically he said, he would wake up and he would usually just go into meditation and prayer, and he said he would always receive messages. And I remember when I heard him say that, I was like, that's interesting, because I remember even in the past being woken up at those times and being like, man, like it's obviously it's dead quiet and uh it's dead silent, and you have the ability to hear everybody's asleep, and there's nothing going on. And um even for me, before, when I had my business before, I remember I'd have to get up and be at my facility by 4 a.m. So I remember oftentimes I'd go outside, at 3:15, whatever, and go and like just kind of look at the stars and just like pray and kind of sit there and just meditate on things. But what I realize is I really do hear downloads. So something I do is, before I go to sleep, I kind of reflect on the day. And then if there's something that I'm kind of struggling with and I really need an answer to, or I'm looking for an answer to, um, before I go to sleep, I'll pray on that, and I'll just ask the divine, can you give me guidance with this? Because I need clarity. I don't understand, or like, what's the deal with this situation? What's the person that's supposed to be here? Like, whatever the case is. And you mentioned dreams, like uh, at times I'll have dreams, or I'll be awakened, and then like you said, around 3, in between 3 and 4, whatever it is, and I'll sit and pray about it, and then kind of just lay there quietly, awake, and I'll get messages, I'll hear things, and it's like almost like an answer will come right through, and it's like, oh shit, give me clarity. Um, I think I don't know if we talked about it on an episode, I'm not 100% sure, but like, I had 2 pretty intense dreams not too long ago, and it was basically showing me, because I wasn't sure. I was asking what else my soul needs to release or heal, or whatever the case is. I'm like, what am I missing? What am I holding on to that needs to leave? Um, and then I had these 2 intense dreams, and basically was awoke around just after 3. I think it was like 3:03 or something. And the answer I got was like, anything that you have still this area of fear in, you need to face it head on. So the dreams were basically I was running from like being chased in the dream, in one of the dreams, and then the other one was like a spirit, like I was in my childhood bed in my childhood home, and I had these spirits with like I couldn't really make out their face. They almost had a face, but I couldn't really make it out. And they were like trying to come and attack me. And so I was like choking them and like trying to get them away from me. So then I just looked things up just to see when I woke up, and it was like, it's telling you that you're running from something that you need to face head on. And then I prayed about it, and then I started to get answers of things, like a few things that I really have just at times tried to avoid. And I'm like, I can't do that anymore. So it gave me a complete clarity in that moment. So it's definitely a great time to, like, before you go to sleep, pray, meditate on things. If you're awakened at that time, or you have a dream and then you're awakened, whatever the case, like really start listening for the answers because they'll start coming through.
Yeah, actually, so waking up around that time has been happening to me more frequently in the last couple weeks. And I've talked about this probably in previous episodes, or at least with you. Like I've had crazy dreams, like fighting demons or something, in my dreams ever since I was a little kid. Like I still remember one of the first dreams I ever had about it. But um, most recently, actually, like a couple of days ago, like like we were talking about in a previous episode, our thoughts, right? So there was, I think it was Sunday, either Sunday or Monday. I'm like, I don't know what was going through my mind. I was like, man, am I really a good dad? All this stuff, right? And then, just like I do every night, I pray. And if that little doubt is on my mind, I'm like, all right, God, I release this to you. I trust you. I surrender to you. And then that morning, I had this dream, and I'm kind of like, I've been thinking about it. I'm like, what the heck? I take it as a good thing, but I don't remember. I can't remember. There's a bunch of different stuff that happened in the dream, but one of the most profound things that happened is that in my dream I was looking at my phone, but it was also as if, like, how your screen is black and you can see a reflection. So I was looking at my phone in my dream, and then I was seeing my own reflection in it, like how I look now. And then this date appeared. I couldn't see the year, but it said June 21st. And I was like, okay. And then the next morning I look it up and it's like, oh, it's Father's Day. Where the day before I'm talking, beating myself up, like, oh, maybe I'm not as good as a dad as I think, because your own thoughts get in there. And then I'm like, why am I seeing a date in my dream? I never remember when Father's Day is, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't look it up. I didn't do anything, but the concept of fatherhood was on my mind. And I think it's not a coincidence, but kind of a good, kind of funny thing that date showed up, because that's the day Father's Day is this year. And I was like, huh. And I kind of took that as, you're good, bro. You're not a terrible father. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
So it's also about that. And then, when you wake up, like I woke up around 3 a.m. after having that dream, and that's usually around the time I wake up after having some crazy dreams. And can you hear me? Oh, my screen
you got a little pause. I was wondering, just to let you guys know, in this episode, Nate's in North Carolina and the weather's been crazy, so I don't know if that caused some interruption to the connection. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, when I wake up at 3 a.m., the first thing I say is like, thank you for another day. And then I just start going into whatever's on my mind, whatever worries or clarity I need. I'm like, hey, I trust you, but I'm going to pray for this. And then it's kind of like, it's a powerful time for me, because it happens to me just about every time now that I pray. Is that, like I told you before, about kind of like that channeling feeling, where I'll get that chill right at my neck, and it goes all the way down. But I feel like recent over the past few months, it's become more of a. It's been a more like intense feeling, not like tension, but I feel it more.
Mm.
But especially at those times when I wake up and I start praying or talking to God, it's like more present, for
You
lack
feel
of.
more present, right?
It's almost well, I don't. It's not. I don't know if I would describe it as me being more present, but I feel like it's God being more present, if that makes sense. That's how I interpret it. Like that chill when I'm speaking to God. It's like it's almost like a validation. Like, relax, I'm right here. You know.
Hmm. Yeah, no, totally. Because I mean, they say the veil between the veil between the worlds is thinnest between 3 and 6 a.m. Right? So between us and and the spiritual realm, the veil is the thinnest at that time. So our ability to hear and connect is apparently supposed to be a lot stronger at that time. And I believe that. I mean, like you said, I feel more present in those moments. I feel like I feel like I have clarity when I pray at night and I ask God for guidance on things. But um, I also feel like when I wake up at those times, even if it's just wake up to start my day, because oftentimes, like tomorrow morning, I'll be up at 3. Like I get up at 3. So if I'm not awakened before that, which oftentimes I awaken a little before that, but if I'm not awakened before that, when I do sit and pray and meditate in those times, I do feel like I'm very present and have a lot more clarity. Um, so, I mean, I suggest, I also suggest, this is just suggestion for people. I know it's not kind of what we're talking about, but at the same time, it does apply. Is before you go to bed at night, grab your journal and write down questions that you have for God. Like write them down, cement them in to the subconscious mind, and then pray, ask questions again out, verbally out loud. Like, I talk to the creator like I'm talking to you, you know. I tell people like I talk, it's like I'm having a conversation with you. And I'm telling you, answers come really fast. You know, um, it's amazing how quickly I will get an answer to something now. Like if I have a question about something that needs to be healed within myself, if I have a question about like, hey, I'm working on starting this business, what's my next step, right? And it's like, here's answers, boom, boom, boom. Even if it's like the next, like later in that day or the next day, it's like something will happen, and then bam, that transpires, and I see, I'm like, that's the answer I needed right there. So it's insane how quickly prayer is powerful. I just want people to understand that. Like, and it's not like you don't have to be doing formal prayer, like like you were taught when you were a kid. It's like literally talk to God, just like you're talking to your buddy. You know.
Yeah. That's what I've come to realize is already sees through your nonsense anyway. So if you're trying to fake the funk, he already knows. So you might as well just talk to him authentically, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you correlated this at all with what we're talking about, but there's two parts to this. Is one is that oftentimes before I go to sleep and then that same night I'll have crazy dreams, my ears will be ringing before I go to sleep. And then
Hmm.
when I wake up at around 3 a.m. or so, it won't happen instantly, but as I'm doing my practice prayer, asking for guidance, my ear will start ringing again. So one, I don't know if you've experienced that correlation, and two, for when like we mentioned earlier, talking about it being like the quote unquote devil's hour, right? I think about the
Hmm.
concept of that's when the veil is lifted a little bit more.
Hmm.
And from what I kind of have experienced a little bit is that it's also a time of like spiritual warfare
Hmm.
where God is like calling you like, hey, like you're supposed like pray so that pray away the darkness basically.
Hmm.
Like that's the quote unquote devil's hour. So you're waking up to help fight it, so to speak. So I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on those two things. Like the ear ringing, if you experience that correlation, and then what do you think about that time and the significance of does it relate to spiritual warfare in any way?
I don't know if I've necessarily experienced the ear ringing at like right at that time. I mean, I definitely get it randomly at times, and and it's funny because there's definitely times where I'm asking for guidance, and then I'll get that, or I'll be experiencing like something where I'm like, like something's going on, and I'll get the ear ringing. And having been a medic, people will be like, "Well, it's medical, it's tinnitus." I'm like, "It's not tinnitus. It's
Yeah,
not tinnitus."
I can tell if
I'm
it's
like,
not. I can tell if
yeah,
it's tinnitus or
yeah,
that. You know.
yeah. I'm like, it's not tinnitus. I'm like, I promise you. And so I'm like, it's definitely just like a spiritual download. So I definitely experienced that not frequently, but semi frequently. Um, I don't know if I ever had it right at that time. Maybe I just don't remember. But I definitely believe you're receiving a divine download. You're receiving guidance in that moment. And then with spiritual warfare, obviously, like I do believe there is the whatever you want to call it, the enemy, the opposing side, the opposing forces, whatever you want to call it. That it's kind of like that's the side that will test you when you're going through things or when you're asking for guidance or whatever the case is. I don't know if I correlate it to that time so much, but I think that obviously it's kind of like the fight between the head and the heart, right? It's like, you have like the head, that's like telling you one thing, and then the heart's like that's bullshit, you know? And so, but do I think that there's maybe these opposing, I don't know if you want to call it spirits, forces, whatever you want to call it, the other side that, that wants to try to interfere? Probably. I would imagine there, but but yeah, like as far as correlating it to like waking up at 3 a.m., stuff like that, I would say that since the veil is thinner, you're more connected to the divine. We're always connected to the divine, but I think you're even more connected to the light at that point where you can get way more clearer answers and probably that much more rapidly, right? Um, so it's kind of like you and I have talked about astrology. It's like right now we're like in this phase that just we just turned into this phase that hasn't happened in 165 years of all these planets coming into one space. And so it's like they're saying like the opportunity to manifest dreams right now, like the way you want to live life, um, is at its strongest. So like I tell people like right now is the time to ask God for everything you want, ask big, and like if you have a vision for your life, a way you want to live, do it. And then if you're like waking up at those hours, man, be intense about it, get up, pray, meditate, excuse me, journal, like literally just hit it full, like with all your energy right now, because this is a very powerful time. So,
Yeah, I would say I would. I guess I don't know. A cautionary note is don't hear this and think, oh, that's the only time I should pray or
no,
meditate.
no,
You
all the time,
know?
dude. I pray all day long. I talk to God all day long.
Yeah, same. Same, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
I talk to God more than I talk to people. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like I love people and I talk to people, but I mean, throughout my day, as I'm just walking around and doing whatever I'm doing, I'm asking questions and I'm asking for guidance. I can be watching another podcast or just a video on YouTube or something, and I'll receive a message in that, and I'll pause it and I'll ask a question because I get clarity from that, right? Or if it's like oftentimes something I prayed about either earlier that day or maybe the day before, and I'm telling you, a video will show up or a podcast episode with the answer that quickly. It's like synchronistically, here's the answer. Boom. It's like, oh, all right.
what's crazy about? I was just thinking the same thing that you just said because often I try to like I don't wear a watch anymore, so I check my phone. Check my phone for the time,
Mm.
but it's not like I think it's important to not get on your phone and just start scrolling immediately at those times necessarily. You can, you're your own person. But I can relate to that too because I'll if I wake up early and I'm like, all right, and then I'll be scrolling and I see something that like those are the times it's kind of weird. It's weirdly satisfying in a way because I'll have the same thing where I'll see something that's like the answer to a question that I had a couple
Hmm.
days ago, or it's like something that resonates so much. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, it just magically shows up on my phone in a random scroll.
And to let people know that is a synchronicity. No, it's not your phone. Like, yes, I believe our phone does listen, but it's not like when I'm talking to God like that. I'm not saying it out loud enough for the phone to hear it. You know what I mean? So that synchronicity with like that, like Because oftentimes for me, well, because I don't when I wake up at 3 a.m. if I when I wake at those times, I don't get on my phone. I pray, I meditate. But I mean, it could be like later that morning, later the day, whatever. It's like there'll be a podcast episode or a video or something, and it's like, holy shit, like that's literally what I was praying about. And I didn't speak it out loud. I didn't do any of that. So it's not like the phone could hear me. So that was synchronistically like handed to you from the divine. And I always tell people God speaks in so many ways. Like I think people think that the answers are always going to be very obvious, and most times it's like something totally. That's why I tell people try to be aware. Don't search for them, but just be aware that the answer can come from so many different avenues.
Yeah.
So just kind of again, don't search for it because you probably won't see it. Like you just need to just be open and understand that God's always responding, and oftentimes very quickly. So.
I think that's a good point, is that, you know, like we've talked about before, people have a I don't want to say skewed, but I would say maybe like a misunderstanding of how communication goes sometimes.
Yeah.
As for like synchronicities, for example, like the other day, I was like worried about something and I'm driving, and then, some people will hear this and be like, oh, there's nonsense. But then I see synchronistic license places with repeating numbers, and I'm like, oh, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how I view synchronicities, is like, hey, this God telling you, hey man, everything's okay. Or sometimes it's like, I guess it could be, someone could argue that it's left up to interpretation, of course. But
Yeah.
when I see a synchronicity after while either I'm actively or I just was worrying about something or thinking about something, if I see a synchronicity, a lot of times I see that as sort of like almost like a validation, like, hey, you're good.
Well, it is. It's the universe speaking, right? I mean, it's the same thing. Like I can be asking for something in a moment, like, and I've had that happen a lot lately. We've talked about angel numbers in the past, and I've had it happen so frequently lately where I'm either thinking about something or I've asked for something like right in that moment, and then I look at my phone, it's 11:11, 10:10, it's 12:12, 2:22. Like, I mean, consistently lately. I mean, for the last several weeks, it's just been like back to back, and my phone will be in my pocket. And like you said, I'll pull it out just to see what time it is. It's 10:10. And then I won't check it again for a while. I'll be doing something, whatever, and then maybe I think about something or ask a question. I pull it out. It's 11:11. It's like, what the hell? But it's there. The universe is always responding, you know. And I think the more you slow your mind and you become very present, you start to see it.
I mean, yeah, I'm seeing him now. Like I told you before we started recording, I'm seeing him in our in our YouTube,
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
in
Yeah,
our
yeah,
stats and stuff. Like,
yeah.
oh,
You can
three
see
two
him,
three, 121. There you go.
like you said, you can see him everywhere. You drive by a house, see an address. It's like in the moment, what were you thinking? It's yeah, it's all. We're always being spoken to. Our soul's always like whispering to us. We just have to be aware enough to listen and hear.
Well, I think a lot of it too, and we've talked about this before, is we're talking about like this time. If you, I mean, you can do this realistically anytime during the day, right, or night, whatever your
Mhm. Of course,
schedule is.
absolutely.
But I think the baseline is that in order to start noticing stuff like this, you have to start to become more aware, like you said.
You have to become more
And
conscious.
yeah, and that time, from what I have experienced, between 3 and 6 roughly, is the perfect quiet time to be like, there's nothing else going on.
Hmm.
It's just you and God,
Yep.
and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about off camera. Is just it. There, like I tell people once you start in your typical day, that's when the distractions start. So that's also why I recommend to people, like, to each his their own, do what you want. But when you wake up in that first 30 minutes you're awake, at least 30 minutes, like don't grab your phone. Don't start doom scrolling and doing all that bull crap. I'm like, just take the time to sit and ask God, if you need to ask God for guidance or tell God, hey, whatever the case is. The other thing is tell God how you want the day to go. Like today, I want the day to be amazing. I want it to be full of miracles. I want to receive abundance, love, whatever it is, right? Like whatever it is. I want to improve upon this thing. In the first 30 minutes, like set the tone. And like you said, because so it doesn't have to be at 3 a.m. whatever. It can be whenever you wake up. But that's just kind of a suggestion. I know a lot of folks will just first thing wake up, grab their phone, start doom scrolling, like and oftentimes if your feed isn't like a feed with like a ton of positivity in it, you're just being hit with negativity from the get go. So energetically, you're already starting your day in the shitter, and then you get on that evil loop of just like shit thoughts that you've just thought about all day yesterday, right? It's like when I go speak to groups and I tell them, like we, per like neuroscientists, we roughly have like 65,000 thoughts a day, and I tell people most people are on the same negative loop every day. So you have to pattern interrupt that shit so that you can get to a space of living in a higher, because the higher your vibration, the more connected you are to the divine, and then the greater the ability to hear the messages. So
Yeah, it's about alignment. What do
it's
you?
all about alignment.
It's just like we talked about in past episodes. What are you aligning yourself with, either knowingly? Like I commented something earlier on one of my buddies' posts about whatever's going on, and I was like, whether people realize it or not, you are either knowingly or unknowingly compromising yourself.
Mhm.
So it's up to us to unlearn what the world has programmed us to know and to
Absolutely.
find the truth within ourselves.
Absolutely, because that's where the truth lies. Exactly. Great point. Because the truth is within you already. You don't need the world. I mean, it's great, when you align with different people, like different podcasts, different things, like people that understand the same things, but don't don't allow all the bullshit distraction to be your guiding force, because that's all it's doing is distracting you, and it's keeping you blind to what you really could be doing in life, how you could be living. It's keeping you from the life that you're actually meant to live, right? And like everything you need is inside of you. So everything you need to heal, everything you need to get like grow through and move through, it's already there inside. So the more you ask and you go within, the more you'll receive. So
Well, I think that's a good point because we were talking about this a couple hours ago before we got on, and it makes me think of like we've talked about how once you start kind of waking up, like for you and me, we can see through nonsense immediately. Or like you're not being genuine, you got something you're hiding, whatever you're saying is bullshit. Your energy's telling a different story. You know what I mean? And like you mentioned, it's great to like align with people that might have the same ideas as you, but what if those ideas are shit?
mhm.
What if their idea is
Well,
like, oh yeah, let's go murder babies? You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. You always have to use discernment, right? So like when you hear things, I always tell people like when you hear us talk, like if it doesn't resonate with you, then just throw it out. But if it touches you, like it touches you like at the heart level, and you're just like, damn, this makes sense, then try to go within and figure out why is it making sense to you? Like what is it teaching you? What is it showing you? Because it's trying to show you something.
That's what I mean, ultimately that's what we're all here to. It's kind of ironic because we're all kind of here to learn, but to also unlearn.
Well, we're all here to learn and expand, in my opinion. But I believe that yes, we have to unlearn and reprogram all the garbage we've been handed, right?
Yeah.
You know, whether it was purposefully handed to you or unknowingly by like well-meaning parents and whatever the case is. But then there's also those entities out there that were purposely trying to hold you down. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of where my train of thought was with what I was saying before is like, once you start, and I've said this before, but once you start kind of lifting that veil from your own eyes and start aligning yourself with God and the truth of what we're here for, other people are going to look at you like you're the black sheep. They're
mhm.
like, what's wrong with that person? Why are you like, but from what I've experienced, like we've talked about before, I've noticed, and I'm not even doing anything. I'm just present. People are like intimidated for no reason. Like I didn't say anything, didn't do anything. People are just like they can sense it in a way.
Well, we're all energy, right? And we're all energetic. And so it's like, even people that may not be aware or understand the aspect of us being energy can still feel an energy. So they don't know what they're feeling or why they feel that way about you. That's why I tell people, not bottom line, no matter who you are, and hopefully you're living in integrity, but at the end of the day, half of the people aren't gonna like you anyway, because like you're still gonna show up and they're gonna be like, your energy, like I said, your energy disturbs their fucking demons. You know what I mean? Their wounds, their whatever. And so when you start to carry yourself, I think in a more confident light, because you start to understand things more differently, you start to understand life's actually working for you, you feel better. Um, for folks that aren't there yet on their journey, it's almost like you're a threat to them, you know. And we don't mean to be, but I experience it at times with people, and I'm just like, I mean, I tend to, thankfully, people say I have really good energy, and that's what I try to, not try to, I mean, I just naturally am myself, and I feel like I for the most part exude that. But there are some people that just the way they look at you, you can tell it's like, I don't even know you, but you really don't look like you like me, and I'm like, I really don't care, because I mean, it's like I know I didn't do shit to you, so I'm not worried about it. But
Yeah, I think one point of miraculous validation I don't even seek is when, like, the other day I had my son on a walk, and there was this older gentleman walking this fucking Jack Diesel male husky, and it's not on a leash, right? And this husky, straight white, blue eyes, looks like a fucking wolf, and it just comes right up to me and my son and is like, "Hey, what's going on?" And like it jumps up
yeah,
and kisses my son in the face, and then, but it's always amazing with moments like that, because it's like, our energy's good. You know what I mean? Like, once you start aligning, those beautiful moments will start happening where it's like random acts of love from like a dog, because animals can sense that stuff too. You
yeah,
know?
because the rest of nature, unlike us, doesn't filter it. You know, it's kind of the same way. Like I work with autistic kids at a high school, and I do behavior therapy stuff with them, and it's kind of crazy because some of them also don't have the filter. Like one of the students I work with, he's nonverbal, right? And so he feels your energy immediately. Like if you come in and you're in an odd mood, like he has a really deep connection to me. Um, but in the past, if I've ever gone in and I was kind of off, like he's off. Like he starts acting out and doing things, and like he immediately feels my energy. But if I'm just in my normal state, I'm uplifted, I'm good. Like he's right there with me, everything's good. You know what I mean? So it's insane, man. It's like, and then like you said, like nature, like dogs or other animals, they see you as not a threat because your energies, your aura is beautiful to them. They're like, all right, this is not a threat to me, right? Babies are the same way. Children, young children, they don't have that filter yet. So to them, they're just like they can sense when you have great energy, and then they can sense when you don't. So pretty
Yeah,
neat.
that's one thing that like me and my wife talk about a lot. Like if we're watching a show, like a documentary or something, and like we see, like, if you see kids or animals like not liking a person, you're like, yeah, that person's they're no good. You know,
Hmm.
it's like a telltale sign.
Yeah,
But
they just have heavy energy. They just haven't done the work.
yeah, but that's one thing. Like going back to what we were talking about, how, like, if you wake up early or whenever you wake up and you set that intention for the day, like, just like how you were talking about the kids that you help, and since we're talking about energy, and this kind of my wife's this happens to my wife a lot, and it happens to me too, but and I know it happens to you, is that you'll meet random people and they'll just start dumping their whole life on you,
Hmm.
because even though they don't necessarily realize it, there's something inside of them that's like, oh, I'm safe here, I can open up,
That's
when
what it is.
the
Safety.
people I'm around every day I can't. you know
Absolutely.
it's almost like it's like an act of service you didn't offer, but it's just there. I don't know. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, I personally love it. I love that people can do that with me because I feel like I just give them a safe space for them to be able to come talk to me about stuff that some people have talked to me about stuff they've held on to for 20 plus years or whatever the case is, and they've never told anybody. So I love that they can do that with me. So.
Well, I think that's the whole point, man. Is like, originally when I was thinking about the concept of this episode, the thing that came into my mind immediately was like light versus darkness.
Yeah.
But so many people, and just like I talked about before, where my wife was saying, like, men have a skewed vision of life where it's like you're meant to die in battle kind of thing. I would relate it a little bit to that metaphor or analogy, is that people have a concept of light and darkness based on like movies and TV and stuff.
Yeah.
But what we have to realize is like these moments that you and I are talking about right now is the light, is the way you fight against darkness, is to model that light by being aligned with your inner self and with God. And then, just like we talked about before, in a way that's projecting and so attracting people to be like, hey, I need help. Or when that wasn't even like planned for the day, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna go to the store. Oh, I ended up talking to this person for 10 minutes about their life. But that's how lifting others works. Sometimes it's random acts that you didn't even plan for.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's amazing. It's great. That's when you know God is really working. He's like, hey, you don't know this. I got this guy at Circle K you're going to talk to for 10 minutes. You know?
Absolutely. Yep.
But I think you know, again, I guess you could say this is a method of learning to be self-aware
Mhm.
in a way. It's kind of
Yeah.
what we've been talking about this whole time, really.
Yeah. Everything's self-awareness, man. Mastering thyself.
Yeah. Well, any closing thoughts, my good man?
No, I think just what I said earlier, you know, just to suggest people really try to take up a practice of prayer. And again, it's not anything formal. Just talk to God like you're talking to your buddy. Um, and ask for things and ask big and then try to get quiet. And then just to the topic we were on, if you are awakened in those hours, you know, between 3 and 6 or whatever the case is, ask again and then get quiet and listen, you know, maybe go into a little 5-10 minute meditation. Um, that's my suggestion. Is definitely a prayer practice and a meditation practice and a journaling practice has been huge for me to get the answers that I'm looking for. So
Yeah, I guess my closing thought is, you know, there's some folks that are going through life. You might be watching this right now thinking like, oh, I'm too far gone, or oh, man, I'm messed up. You're never too far gone. Because
never.
so many people get caught up on, I'm trying to be good. It's like you don't have to try that hard. You just have to be able to see it. So by doing these practices, by aligning yourself, it will fall into when you start seeing it fall into place naturally, and it doesn't feel like tension or resistance. That's when you know the work is happening. But it takes self-awareness.
Absolutely.
So, but
Sending love to everybody.
and we will catch y'all in the next one. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in episode 39.